Hey there nation, welcome to the show. We help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and now it's time for another edition of The Longest War. This is our series of Warhammer 40,000 8th edition battle reports. This is battle report number 2. It is a 1,000 point battle report that is fought between my friend Warlord Ace of the Esoteric Order of Dagon of the Genestealer Cults versus yours truly of the 1st Necromundum Penal Battalion of the Astra Militarum. So we're going to be throwing it down at 1,000 points. I won my very first game of Warhammer 40k using the 8th edition rules. My buddies and my friends and I decided to get armies of our own, and we decided to play it at 1,000 points for right now. So we're going to be doing a couple of 1,000 point battle reports until we start learning how to play the game more and then getting used to our armies and buying new ones. In this case, I'm taking my Astra Militarum against Genestealer Cults. This is the very first time I'm fighting against these guys. I'm not really sure what to expect on this one, but either way, I'm pretty excited to do this. So without being further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go through the army list real fast and get this battle report on the roll. Alright, so let's talk about my army, the 1st Necromundum Penal Battalion. This is my roster for Bravo Company, also known as Bad Company, is a 1,000 point Astra military army. For my headquarters, I have Commander Patricio CheapSkate Denarius. He's my Captain Company Commander. He's armed with a bolt gun, chainsaw, as well as Voxcaster. I also, for my another one, I have Judge Fear. He's my Executive Officer. He's a Lord Commissar with bolt pistol as well as power sword. And Judge Darko, who's a Company First Sergeant. He's also Lord Commissar with a bolt pistol as well as power sword. I then have 2 fire support officers, Judge Anderson and Judge Hershey. Judge Anderson is a Master of Ordnance with last pistol, and Judge Hershey is Officer of the Fleet with a last pistol, and that will make up my headquarters portion of my army. Up next, we have 1st Platoon, also known as Drake Destroyers, is led by Judge Drake, who's a platoon commander armed with a shotgun and chainsword. The first squad is called the Suicide Squad. It's a 10-man veteran squad armed with a flamer, a heavy flamer, missile launcher, and Voxcaster. I also have 2 special weapons squads, 911 Mega Man's crew, 911 Busta 9's crew. Mega Man's crews are a 6-man special weapons squad with 3 flamers and a Voxcaster, and Busta 9's crew is a 6-man special weapons squad with 3 plasma guns as well as a Voxcaster. So that will make up 1st Platoon for my company. Up next is 2nd Platoon, is my infantry platoon. It is called Mason's Marauders. Leading is Judge Mason. He's a platoon commander with a shotgun as well as chainsword, and they have 3 10-man infantry squads. The Jury, called Lemonhead's crew, they're armed with the last cannon, grenade launcher, and Voxcaster. The Plaga Slam Kings, which are armed with the last cannon, flamer, and Voxcaster, and the Sleeping Dogs, which is a 10-man infantry squad armed with a flamer, last cannon, as well as a Voxcaster. So this is kind of like my suppressive element for my company on this one. Next we have 3rd Platoon, also known as Cold Commandos, is another infantry platoon that I have. This is like the maneuver element for my company. Leading is Judge Cold. He's a platoon commander with a shotgun and chainsword, followed by 3 10-man infantry squads. We have the Jury of Riptor's crew, which is armed with heavy bolter, plasma gun, and Voxcasters. The Iron Sights, which is a 10-man infantry squad with flamer, heavy bolter, and Voxcaster. And finally the Killjoy, which is a 10-woman infantry squad with a grenade launcher as well as Voxcaster. And then finally we have 4th Platoon, also known as Gosling's Goons. It is led by Judge Gosling and the Interceptor. He is a platoon commander with a shotgun and chainsword. We have a 20-man conscription squad called the People Eaters, and another 6-man special weapons squad called the One-Hit Huntrunners. There's a 6-man special weapons squad with 3 sniper rifles and a Voxcaster. And of course I have 2 detachments. I have a battalion detachment as well as a vanguard detachment for my army. And that'll round the 1,000 points for my army. So with that being said, we're going to play some background music, show the army list for the Esoteric Order of Dagon, my opponent's 1,000 point Genestealer Cult army. We'll get through that and get on to the battle report. Alright, so now it's time to talk about deployment. As you can see, we're fighting on a 4x6 table, and pretty much I'm deployed on the near side of the table as well. If you also notice, my opponent, Warlord Ace, his entire Genestealer Cult is not on the table because according to his army rules, he gets what's called a Genestealer Cult ambusher rule, which means at the beginning of any one of his movement phases, he can roll guys up into the table. He has to roll a d6 on the table on his little chart that he has that tells exactly where his guys can go and where they can't go. So I'm pretty much walking into a whole situation blind, not really sure what's going on. At the same time, the battle that we're playing is kind of like an interesting one. We kind of put it together ourselves. We have 4 points of interest on this table. We have one area in each, one objective in each of our deployment areas. Whoever controls that, of course, gets victory points. We also have 2 in the center of the table as well that we're going to be trying to fighting over, trying to get a hold of, and that's pretty much what the whole process of this battle report is based around, is around getting those objectives and also securing them as well. So you can see my entire company is pretty much laid out in one straight line across the board because I need to move these guys out. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go and zoom into the areas where all the objectives are located at. Alright, so let's go and talk about my deployment area. First off, starting my left-hand flank for the Astra Militarum, I have Mason's Marauders. That's my maneuver element for my army. These are basically the guys who do all the running and the gunning for me on the movement for the most part. As you can see there, I also got my kind of like a wedge formation with my squads taking point, followed by my platoon commander in the center, and of course my 10-man squad of jury members right behind them as well. So that pretty much makes up my left-hand flank. In the center, I have my HQ as well as my 1st platoon Drake's Destroyers. Drake Destroyers is up front. We have my 2 6-man special weapons teams from 9/11. Followed behind them, we've got the Suicide Squad, that 10-man veteran squad that's acting as bodyguards for my HQ choices. Right in the middle, of course, is Judge Drake. That's my platoon commander. Also, you can see there, I got the little objective that's located in my area deployment zone. I got that secured. I got Judge Anderson and Judge Hershey, which are my 2 fire control officers, as well as my company commander, Commander CheapSkate, who's right there in the back as well. So that makes it my center deployment. Also make up my center deployment is Gosling's Goons. Of course, you got my 20-man conscription squad, the people leaders taking point. Right behind them, of course, I have my platoon commander, Judge Gosling. Right to the right-hand side of him, of course, is my other judge, Judge Darko. That's my 2nd Inquisitor, my company's 1st sergeant. And right behind him, of course, we have the One-Hit Wonders, which are my 6-man sniper team, which is right behind them as well. And all the way on the far right-hand side, we have Cold's Commandos. That's my 3rd platoon. These are once again, these are my suppressive elements as well. I got my squads all armed with las cannons. I got the Flagos Land Kings as well as the Sleeping Dogs taking point. Right behind them, of course, and occupying the center, we have Judge Cold as well as Judge Fear. Those are both my Lord Inquisitor as well as my platoon commander. So that way these guys will get a little bit more of a what you call it, they don't have to worry about breaking so much with summary execution as well. And then right behind them, of course, I got the Riptor's crew of the jury. That's also our last cannon equipped squad as well. Pretty much the plan is pretty simple forward. Have all my troops go quickly as possible to the center of the table, secure objectives, and hopefully not get killed by my opponent. And because my opponent's army is not on the table, I roll off for initiative. I win the initiative on this part, so because of that, we go directly to the top in turn 1 for the Astra Militarum. This photo is taken directly after the movement phase, and as you can see, for the most part, I just start setting my forces up as quickly as possible. I do a lot of advancing for all my troops. There's nothing for me to shoot at this point because my opponent is not on the table at all, so I'm just going to kind of guess to where he'll pop it later on. But at the same time, though, it also leaves most of the objectives open on the battlefield. So starting on the left-hand side, I have my 2nd platoon, Mason's Marauders, move up that left-hand flank around that standing stone, heading towards that 1st objective on the left-hand side as well. I keep Commander CheapSkate in my HQ as well as a Suicide Squad. I came right behind my original deployment area with the objectives located in the center of the table to keep that one secured as well. I then take the 2 6-man weapon squads as well as Judge Drake with Drake's Destroyers, move them up and have them occupy that tank farm down on the left-hand side for the MCI Chemical Works. At the same time, I also advanced up my Gosling's Goons as well. The conscript guys start making to the way to the center of the chemical MCI compound as well. I also got my snipers who were kind of advanced as well and got to the top of that gantry walkway so that they can lay down some suppressive fire in the next turn. And of course, I got my Inquisitor, Judge Darko, as well as my platoon commander, Judge Gosling, occupying beneath that gantry walkway as well. And of course, on the very far right-hand side as well, I got Cold's Commandos. I advanced those guys up forward as well, hopefully trying to secure the 2nd objective, which is on the left right-hand side on the of the MCI Chemical Works compound as well. And that pretty much makes up my movement phase. Here's a close-up of Mason's Marauders making their way to the very first objective and earning myself some battlefield point from victory points from this battle. And here's a close-up of Drake's Destroyers occupying the chemical tank farm at MCI Chemical Works, as well as my Suicide Squad and HQ securing the very first objective in my deployment area. This is another close-up of my Gosling's Goons. I got my one-hit wonders on the top of the gantry walkway, as well as the people eaters occupying the center of town, just kind of holding up a defensive position right in the middle of the chemical works, just in case my opponent decides to deploy any of his forces in front of me. And then finally, I have my 3rd platoon, the Colts Commandos, moving up as quick as they possibly can as well. As you can see, they're just kind of occupying this right-hand side, getting ready to make that towards that objective there. As you can see on the kind of the left of that walkway, right in the middle of the 2 buildings, the MCI tower, as well as the towering tank farm across from them. And I'm just going to try to secure that objective as well, because this battle is all about securing the objectives, and that's what I'm going to try to do. During the shooting phase, there's really not much for me to shoot at, so because that I use the move command, I use that for the iron sights as well as the jury of Lemonhead's crew as well. Move those guys up as quickly as I possibly can to get them surrounded and secure that very first objective on the left-hand side. At the same time, Judge Cole uses move skill as well, order as well for the Pelago Slam Kings, and they move up and secure the second objective. So of the 4 objectives on this battlefield, I got 3 of them locked down, which is making me feeling pretty good about this battle report so far. And since there's nothing else to do, there's no close combat or anything else, we go directly to the top of turn number 1 for the Genestealer Cults. So this is the bottom of turn number 1 for the Genestealer Cults after the move phase, and my opponent decides, Warlord Ace decides to ambush all of his guys using the Cult ambush abilities. And at first I didn't really understand why he didn't really deploy his forces on the battlefield until this happened. As in the back of my head, Admiral Akbar yelled, "It's a trap," and I realized I made a huge mistake spreading out my forces so quickly to occupy these objectives. So starting on the bottom there, as you can see that, in my individual deployment zone, he pops up his unit. I believe they're called Hybrid Alkalites, I believe is what they're called. They're the ones that are like more mutated looking. They're on the right hand side. He's got 12 of those guys armed with hand flamers. On the left hand side, of course, he also deploys his 10-man unit of Genestealers with his Patriarch right in that unit as well. So he's got this wonderful little pincer attack that he can attack my HQ choices as well as my 10-man veteran squad. I believe he rolled a 6 for those in order to get those guys up on the table as well, so that he could put them wherever he wanted. On the right hand side, the very far right hand corner, he deploys one of his 16-man units of hybrid alkalite hybrids, neophyte hybrids, what they're called. There's a 16-man unit that's called the I believe that's the Marsh. No, that's not the Marsh. I'm sorry, that's the Innsmouth Fishing Company. Those are the guys who are just armed with a seismic cannon, a mining laser, as well as auto guns. He also deploys his mages there on the right-hand side as well. What's his name? Obed Marsh. And then, of course, on the very top part, of course, he also deploys his huge unit of neophyte acolytes as well, neophyte hybrids as well. But on that one, he rolled a 5 of blue, so that means those guys can either move or shoot before we even get to the move phase with those guys as well. So that's also very devastating for me as well. And as you can see, his forces are kind of spread out across the table, but he's kind of gone to areas where I'm kind of vulnerable at, and I'm realizing I made a huge mistake deploying my forces like this. So here is a close-up of the deployment of his Genestealers, purebred Genestealers, with his Patriarch as well as his 2 Familiars. These guys just kind of pop up here, and they also still get to move during the move phase, which is really absolutely terrifying. And here's a close-up of his 12 Alkalites as well, those hybrid Alkalites, and those guys are armed with hand flamers. And I just got really bad images in my head of what these guys would be going at and which they're going to be attacking and what kind of vulnerabilities I've just exposed myself to. Here on the right-hand side, you got the Innsmouth Fishing Company as well as Obed Marsh as mages. These guys are located here in the back right-hand corner of my deployment area, looking directly at my jury members and ready to put some pain that way. And then located on the top with that wonderful be able to shoot before the shooting phase type thing as well is the Marsh Gold Refinery Company, as well as his Barnabas Marsh, which is his Primus, I believe that guy is called. They're located right directly in front of my sleeping dogs, so that's just wonderful as well. Alright, so during the movie phase, he moves up his Genestealers on the left-hand side, as well as his Patriarch, as well as his Hybrid Acolytes, and gets this wonderful pincer formation surrounding my 10-man veteran squad, as well as my HQ. And already I can tell that these guys are going to be killed here pretty soon, so that's just wonderful. And in the shooting phase, he opens up with his Marsh Refinery Company onto my sleeping dogs. And that was absolutely devastating because he gets to shoot first before he actually has to move or anything like that. He gets to choose, I think, between moving and or shooting. And so it was absolutely devastating. The rapid fire ability on those auto guns, while he's also in rapid fire range for my last guns as well, I was on the receiving end of it. As you can see here, he killed about, I think, 4 of my guys is what he ended up doing as well. Missed his shots with his mining lasers, but you know, that was still kind of devastating as well. I didn't realize how powerful rapid fire weapons can be at strength 3. Usually it doesn't do very much good against me, against my opponent, because the last group of guys I fought against were Chaos Space Marines, so it didn't work out really well. But firing against like toughness 3 guys like me and using strength 3, it turns out it's pretty effective. More effective than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, that was pretty brutal. So during the Psyker phase, my opponent Warrior Ace takes his mages and he used a mind control psychic ability off on my heavy gunner for my my jury members, which operates last cannon. Unfortunately, got that spell off. So because of that, my last cannon took aim and fired at my Lord Inquisitor there, Judge Fear on the right hand side, my Lord Commissar on the right hand side, and managed to kill Judge Cold right off the top. I think I wounded him like once, and I got like 6 wounds off. So because of that, my Lord Commissar did not stand a chance whatsoever. So that was pretty terrifying to see that. And on the right side over here, at the back of my deployment area, my opponent takes his Patriarch, does exactly the same spell again. The mind control one actually has my veteran arm of the rocket launcher, fires off a frag missile right at Commander CheapSkate, managed to wound him 4 times as well. I was really lucky he didn't get killed with the 5th one, because my opponent actually rolled a 5 wounds on that part, but luckily I saved 1 of them, I guess, in my invuln save, but the other 4 got through, and now Commander CheapSkate is almost dead, and I realize now that maybe I should bring Psykers with me, because I really underestimate the power of Psykers in this battle so far. So with the psychic phase over, we go directly to the shooting phase, and all of those Acolyte hybrids open up with their hand flamers into my HQ courses. Not only do they kill Commander CheapSkate, but they also kill my fleet officer, as well as my artillery officer as well. So my entire HQ choices are totally gone. And the only thing that's left now is my 10-man veteran squad, and things are not looking very good for me in my own deployment area. And over here on the right hand side during the shooting phase, it was absolutely devastating seeing the amount of destruction that was caused by these guys when they opened up as well. Managed to wipe out the rest of my sleeping dogs, and not only that, they also killed they also managed to kill most of my jury members, and also they managed to kill my platoon leader as well. I think it was those mining lasers. The mining lasers took aim at my platoon commander after they got done whittling down my jury members to the point where my platoon commander was actually closer to them, so they could actually start shooting with the mining lasers. The only guy I got left over right there is by himself, is my lone jury member right there by himself, armed with a grenade launcher, that Scorpion. He's all by himself, and after that, I just literally watched an entire platoon of guys just get wiped out in a heartbeat. It was absolutely terrifying to watch that happen. And to make matters worse, during the charge phase, he charges in his Genestealer Cults as well as his Patriarch and get my 10-man Suicide Squad completely surrounded. At the same time, he decides to charge with his Acolytes into the back of my formation of my Gosling's Goons, now Judge Gosling, as well as my Lord Commissar, Judge Darko. They're also engaged in close combat as well by those Acolytes, so that's just all kinds of bad. And because these guys are Genestealer Cults, and apparently they just can't quit when it comes to charging, my opponent, Warlord Ace, takes his, I believe they're called the Innsmouth Fishing Company, and has him charged directly into my 1 remaining Commodore guy left to kill those guys as well. So that was pretty devastating. So with charging phase over, we go directly to the combat phase. And in that picture, I just realized how deadly Genestealers are in close combat. They ate my 10-man squad alive like it was nobody's business. They do a 3-inch reconciliation move. As you can see, that they're turning down to face the rest of my platoon on the left-hand side. They're getting ready to take on Mason's Marauders, so that's just wonderful. As you see here, the Brethren of Zadok Allen had no problem eating alive my platoon commander as well as my Lord Commissar. All right, that gantry walkway, and they just gutted those guys completely. That was pretty terrible. And as you can imagine, the Innsmouth Fishing Company had no problem killing my last remaining Cotter guy off either, and they also kind of reforged 3 inches closer towards my Pelago Slam Kings as well. And now I'm kind of scared because now I'm realizing that these guys will be able to advance onto my Pelago Slam Kings and cause all kinds of problems for those guys. Alright, so that takes us to the top of turn number 2 for the Astra Militarum. I just realized how absolutely terrifying these Genestealer Cultists really are. I've never fought anything like this before in my life. These guys are ambushing, really good at shooting, well, against Astra Militarum anyways. They're really good at shooting, and they're also really good at close combat as well, and I am absolutely terrified because I have no idea what to do against these guys, because I'm pretty sure anything I would do would not, really suffice. So as you can see in this photo, I take all my units, I make them turn 180 to face the threats that are coming my way as well. As you can see, Mason's Marauders, they all turn 180 to kind of face off against the Patriarch, as well as the Genestealers that come up my way as well. I also drop Mega Man's crew off to the left-hand side of the MCI Chemical Works, that way they can start engaging with those flamers into those Genestealers. At the same time, I also take Buster Nine's crew, which the guys armed with the plasma guns on the right-hand side, screw them over to the right-hand side to take aim at those Acolyte hybrids that are down below. Same thing with my one-hit wonders. You can see there, I move them up 6 inches to the right-hand side onto the MCI Chemical Works tower there, so that way they can start taking some sniper shots at that Magus, hopefully take him out as well. And then, of course, my Gosling's Goons, the people leaders, they turn 180 as well to face the Acolytes coming their way. Here's a close-up of my Mason's Marauders, as well as sorry, not Mason's Marauders, Mason's Marauders, as well as the members of my 6-man weapon squad there getting ready to tear it up with those Genestealers, hopefully destroy those guys with some long-range firepower. And here's a close-up of Bustinan's crew, as well as my people leaders getting ready to take on these Acolyte hybrids as well. And finally, here's a close-up of my one-hit wonders getting ready to snipe at that Magus over in the far right-hand corner of the battlefield, as well as the Plaga Slam Kings turning 90 degrees, getting ready to bottleneck whatever comes down that walkway and just kind of shoot it up as it comes towards that objective. So, because there is no psychic phase to go directly to shooting phase, I use my first rank, second rank fire order onto my very first unit of Caldor wielding Glass Gunners there in the center of this frame, and I open up on those Genestealers, and I realized that these guys, even though they're really deadly in close combat, they're actually kind of soft. I was actually surprised how much I actually managed to kill these guys. Opened up with all 3 squads from my platoon, as well as my special weapons team onto that 10-man Genestealer squad. Managed to kill 7 of them in one go, so that was absolutely pretty amazing on that part. I thought those things would be a lot tougher, but apparently Genestealers are kind of like glass cannons, are really good at close combat, but if you shoot at them though, they kind of tear apart, so that was kind of cool. At the same time, using the rapid fire ability from my conscripts, as well as Buster 9's crew with their plasma guns, managed to wipe out that unit of Acolytes as well, which is also pretty cool too. So most definitely I'm starting to realize that maybe Genestealers are really good at close combat as well as and fighting and stuff and ambushing you, but they don't really stand much of a chance against shooting, which is actually kind of nice because these guys are dying as quickly as I do whenever my opponent shoots at me, so that's kind of nice. And the Plaga Slam Kings managed to wipe out about 4 of those guys off of that group as well from the Innsmouth Fishing Company. So that was kind of nice and kind of gives me a little bit more of a break at that point as well. And my one-hit wonders were able to put 3 wounds onto that Magus as well, which is also pretty epic because that guy has, I think, 5 wounds. He's got 2 more wounds before he dies as well. And that's always a good thing because that guy is kind of scary in the psychic phase. So, sensing blood in the water, I just started charging my units. We'll see how that kind of works out here in the combat phase here in a second. But first of all, spoiler alert, but first of all, I send in my 9/11 Special Weapons Squad charging into 3 remaining Genestealers because I figure there's only 3 Genestealers left. How bad could it possibly be? So I decided to take those guys out with my 6-man squad. I also send the Killjoys as well as the Jury to take on the Patriarch as well. I'm just envisioning these guys kind of surround this guy and just chopping him down in close combat. So that's what I did over here in the left-hand side of the battle. And in the combat phase with the morale phase, I realized I made a huge mistake. So as you can see in this photo, those 3 Genestealers had no problem just clawing down my 9/11 weapons crew like it was nobody's business. I was absolutely just devastated to see how much damage these guys cause in close combat. Same thing with the Killjoys. They wiped out all the Killjoys except for one of them, and I think he managed to kill, 1 or 2 of my jury members as well. I forgot which ones, but it was absolutely terrifying to watch that thing just kind of claw its way through all the destruction that took place. That was absolutely ridiculous, and I realized I made a huge tactical error engaging these guys in close combat. And also during the morale phase, a couple of members of the Innsmouth Fishing Company also fled away as well because of the casualties they took, so that was kind of nice. Alright, so we go directly to monitor number 2 for the Genestealer Cults, and this photo is taken directly after the movement phase. As you can see, not much really movement takes place on the left-hand side. His Patriarch isn't going anywhere because he's still engaging my members in close combat. He does, however, take his Genestealer Cults and also has them get to the top of the MCI chemical work, giving them charging range of my second 6-man weapons team. So now I'm actually kind of afraid because I saw those guys kill a 6-man squad, no problem. I'm having like horrifying images of the same thing happening to my second 6-man squad. At the same time, he also just moves up 6 inches, both his units of Neophyte hybrids. He moves up the Marsh Gold Refining Company as well as the Shadow of the Innsmouth Fishing Company as well, and gets them on the either side of that standing stone, which also puts them directly into close range fire to do rapid fire with their auto guns against my Goliath. So that's also like a bad thing to happen. And then finally he runs his he advances, gets a 6 off. So this guy moves 12 inches, takes his mages and puts them right behind that standing stone there on the right hand side, so that way my snipers can't shoot at him anymore, which was probably a good move on his part. Here's a close-up of Warlord Ace's Patriarch being surrounded by what left over of my platoon. I'm thinking that I made a huge tactical error charging this guy in close combat. I'm just seeing my guys being eaten alive. And here's a close-up of Warlord Ace's 3 Genestealers getting ready to charge into my 6-man weapon squad from 9/11, and I'm just seeing those guys being clawed to death too. And finally, here's a close-up of his 2 Neophyte squads getting closer to the Plaga Slam Kings, and they're also within rapid fire range for their weapons as well as their mage just kind of hiding behind that rock so that way he can't get sniped anymore. So yeah, things are getting pretty ugly here pretty quick. During the psychic phase, his Patriarch gets off his mind control ability off on one of my Caldor members. So my Caldor member Johnny, who's armed with the plasma gun, takes a shot and kills one of the Killjoys as well. So that was pretty sad. And his Patriarch has a second ability. I forgot what it's called, but it gives the +1 strength as well as +1 attack to units whoever get it. So because of that, these Genestealers are now even deadlier in close combat. And so I have the sneaking suspicion my buddy Warlord Ace is going to charge into my units and try to fight them and try to kill them all, which kind of makes sense because that's what I would do if I was him. Which takes us to the shooting phase because his mages couldn't get off any of his abilities, and as you can see in this photo, I used to have a pretty good sized squad of Goliaths around that objective. I used to have one. Before both these guys opened with rapid fire weapons, grenade launchers, flamers, as well as mining lasers and seismic cannons. Oh my god, those two guys just shredded my 10-man Goliath unit like it was nobody's business, and now those guys are all dead to a man, and that leaves my entire right-hand flank completely exposed, and that's absolutely terrifying to see that happen. So in the charging phase, my buddy Warlord Ace takes his Genestealers and actually charges him to my 911 weapon squad, so that's just wonderful. And in the following combat phase, the Patriarch had no problem finishing off the rest of my jury that was around him trying to kill him at the same time. I inflicted no wounds against this guy, and this guy just ate right through my jury like it was nobody's business. All the rest of my guys, I think I had 3 guys left, they ran away when I took my morale test, and those guys just fled off the battlefield because they didn't want to be, disemboweled alive by this freaking huge Genestealer monstrosity. The same thing could not be said for my 911 weapon squad. Those guys got killed to the last man, and so you can see the Genestealers reconciliate another 3 inches onto that walkway. And I have the sneaking suspicion that he's going to charge directly into my sniper squad and take those guys out as well, which is pretty tragic. Alright, so that takes the turn number 3 for the Astra Militarum. This photo is taken directly after the movement phase. As you can see, for the most part, all I really did is I took my members of my iron sights and moved them up along with my platoon commander, getting ready to within range to use the rapid fire ability, the las guns, against that freaking monstrosity that's coming my way as well for that Patriarch. I also take my conscripts because that's the only other unit I really have left. I move over to the right hand side, get them into like a kind of column formation to take on any units of neophytes that come down that way as well. So that pretty much rounds up my movement phase for this one. Here's a close-up of my iron sights, getting ready to put the hurting onto that Patriarch with some long-range firepower, because I realize now that that's the way you kill Genestealer Cults, is by shooting them, not fighting them in close combat. And here's a close-up of my conscripts just kind of occupying the center of town and kind of waiting for these neophytes to bottleneck in so that way I can destroy them with some shooting as well. And speaking of shooting, I take aim with my conscripts because they're within rapid fire range against that unit of neophytes, the Innsmouth Fishing Company. I wipe those guys off the face of the planet, just destroy those guys as well. At the same time, I also take my snipers and I take aim with my 3 snipers directly to the Primus, who's right behind the Marsh Refinery Company at Barnabas Marsh. Managed to put 3 wounds on that guy as well. One of them was a mortal wound, so that automatically went through. The other 2 were just really good shots. So I'm really liking sniper teams a lot. I'm thinking maybe I should just switch over those guys for my special weapons because they're doing quite a bit of work on this battle so far. Meanwhile, the other 3 members of a sniper team were just armed with las guns and managed to kill one of the Genestealers, so, at this point I'll take what I can get. And I also use the command order, bring it down on my iron sights, so that way they get rapid fire abilities. Also gets +1 to their wound rolls as well. And the only thing I managed to do is to put 2 wounds on this Patriarch, because that thing not only does have a pretty good armor save of 4, which, laser blast just, bounce off of that kind of armor save, but he also has an invulnerable save of 5 as well because he's got lightning reflexes. So it was really hard to try to take this thing down. I realized maybe the Patriarch can't be shot down. I don't know anything I could do. If I had my my officer, my barrage, I could put a barrage as well as airstrike on if those guys are still alive, but they got eaten alive by Genestealers in the very first round. So yeah, things are not looking very good for my guys. Alright, so that takes the dawn of turn number 3 for the Genestealer Cults, and as you can see in this photo's taken directly after the move phase. He just starts sending all of his forces to get within range to charge at me from the looks of it as well. So you can see he moves up his Patriarch, moves up his normal 6 inches, that way he can charge his next turn at my iron sights. He also moves up his Genestealers. He actually, I think, advances them because these guys can also advance and charge, I believe, in the same turn. So you can see his 2 Genestealers getting ready to charge into my sniper team. At the same time, he takes his mages, his Primus, as well as his neophytes from the Marsh Gold Refinery Company and moves them directly down to that central walkway to go right after my conscripts as well. Here's a close-up of his Patriarch getting ready to put the hurt onto my unit of iron sights once he gets engaged with close combat those guys. That's assuming, of course, he doesn't do something crazy with his psychic abilities. And here's a close-up of his neophytes as well as his mages, as well as his Primus getting ready to engage my conscripts as well as my sniper team as well. So that'll be kind of interesting to see exactly what happens. During the psychic phase, my opponent, Warlord Ace, takes his Primarch and uses the whole treason mind control spell again. And he puts on my Flamer this time, and so I have no psychics to kind of stop it. So my Flamer from the iron sights, takes aim with his flamer, opens up on my platoon commander, and he manages to roll a 6 for the hits he gets. So he rolls those 6s. He rolled a bunch of 4s as well as 5s in order to wound my platoon commander as well. All 6 of those things wound. So then I take my dice to kind of save the vulnerable save with his void shields he has around his body, and I fail every single one of those saves. So just like that, my platoon commander just got wiped out. And so now the only thing I have left now are just my infantrymen, all of them without any commander to lead them anymore. Also, during the second phase, I believe my friend uses Smite, I believe what it is. Yeah, he used Smite. That's just like the regular magic missile type psychic ability. Managed to kill 3 members of my conscripts at the same time they did as well. So as you see there, 3 less of my conscripts are there to stand their ground. And in the shooting phase, the combined fire of his Primus as well as the rest of his neophytes, they just chop my unit conscripts down basically in half. And that's where I realized at this point that I actually might not win this battle report because I don't have enough bodies on the ground anymore because all my infantrymen got eaten alive or shot to death in the previous round. So things are not looking very good for my army at this point. And of course, in the charge phase, his Patriarch makes it no problem right directly into my iron sights, so now those guys will be engaged in close combat. And his 2 Genestealers get engaged with my sniper team on the top of the MCI chemical work towers as well, which is always a bad thing. And with the YOLO cry in the air, my buddy Warlord Ace also takes his neophytes as well as his Primus and has them charge directly into the remainder of my conscripts as well and get those guys engaged in close combat. So that pretty much makes it the charge phase on this one. This photo is taken directly after the combat phase as well as the morale phase. As you can see, for the most part, I lost 6 members of the iron sights. I believe I lost 4 to combat and 2 ran away from the morale test as well, as I believe was ended up happening for that part. So unfortunately for me, I was unable to inflict a single wound back because the Primus's armor saves and his invul saves just don't quit. And that's the best kind of saves. The saves that just don't quit, which is also pretty cool. And this is the part of the battle report I realized that Genestealers are deadly no matter how many of them there are, even if there's only 2 of them left. They managed to kill all of my snipers. I think they killed like 4 of them is what ended up happening, and the rest ran away during the morale phase as well. So that was absolutely terrifying. I was unable to inflict any wounds back on those Genestealers because they have a pretty good armor save, and I have like the strength of nothing when it comes to close combat. So that was just absolutely terrifying to see that happen. And as you see in this photo, my conscripts didn't last very long either. I did manage to kill a good number of the neophytes. I think I killed about a third of them. And I believe he killed about the half of the remaining conscripts I had left as well. The problem was during the morale phase, I only had leadership before. I have nobody to kind of keep those guys there. So when I rolled a d6, I think I rolled a 6. So the other 6 guys who were remaining ran away and just ran for the hills as well. And so now all my conscripts are completely gone just to make things worse. And at this point in the battle report, I decided to end the game at this point because I only got 4 iron sights left, and let's face it, they're not going to survive the next round, so I pretty much surrender and I give the victory to my opponent, Warlord Ace. Very, very devastating battle report. A lot of losses and a lot of death on both sides of this battle report. It was absolutely insane. But anyways, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to the after action report because this battle report is officially over, and we're going to talk about this part as well.
I thought about staying. They offered me the chance to lead them, to teach them, to be king.
Uh-huh.
But my place is here, so I swallowed the juice, said the words, and here I am.
Did you say the words right this time?
Well, maybe I didn't say every single tiny little syllable, no, but basically I said them, yeah. Basically.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the after action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the after action report from the longest war battle report number 2. Ended up being a defeat for yours truly at the most part. Yeah, I just got defeated on this one. Nope, it was just no doubt about it. For my losses, I pretty much lost everything. The only thing I had left over were my 4 iron sights, and everything else had been eaten alive and killed up to that point as well. As for my buddy Warlord Ace, he lost the Marsh Gold Refinery Company as well as the Brethren of Zadok Allen. That was the only thing he did lose. He lost 2 of his units as well. So let's talk about why I lost this battle. First and foremost, I underestimated my opponent on this battle report. I saw what he was bringing, and I thought I had him in numbers alone because he only had like 4 units. He had like a unit of Genestealers, 2 units of Neophyte Hybrids, and a unit of Alkalites, and then he had his 3 characters. I'm like, that's nothing. I have like whole platoons in my army. I have 4 platoons, and your 4 squads are going to take on my 4 platoons. So I really underestimated what the Genestealers could do. I did not know what to expect, and they just beat me down and taught me to respect them because they are very deadly. I did not know what to expect from the ambush rules, but now I understand why his army was so small because those ambush rules really make a difference, and those guys are really, really devastating in the when they popped up. What I also learned from this battle report is that Genestealer Cults are extremely deadly in close combat, and I could have avoided losing my entire second platoon if I just didn't charge them in and take on the Patriarch as well as those Genestealers. I just sort of kept back and just shooting at them the entire time. I now realize that the thing I should know is use my fallback rule, where I can fall back and then keep on shooting using my rules, my orders in order to do that. And just shooting at my opponent the entire time instead of standing my ground and taking the offense. That proved to be very, very bad at getting engaged in close combat with those guys. So now I know. I just got to shoot them because it's nice to know that these guys are just as squishy as my guys are in the shooting phase. So that was kind of nice. These guys are not very tough, so it's pretty easy to kill these guys. But you get them in close combat, though, totally different story. Another interesting thing about this battle report is that the psychic phase really caught me unawares. I was not really realize how important psychers are because, yeah, I went up against Chaos Space Marines last time, but they really didn't have much of a psychic phase. But these guys, they had quite a bit of it, and the only problem is I didn't know what to expect, so I just really got defeated on that part as well. I mean, normally I could see the importance of why you would want to bring one, but I don't know. The concept of a psyker to me just doesn't, you know, do it for me for Warhammer 40,000. I mean, we're in the age where you have these huge city-sized battleships that nuke entire planets. I mean, what good are psychic powers in comparison to that? But I don't know. Anyways, I might have to rethink things. I don't know sure what I'm going to do about that. But as a result of this battle report, I now fear Genestealer Cults, and may the Emperor protect me in my future endeavors because I did not realize how deadly these guys were. And my buddy Warlord Ace, he already has enough. He's bought further models since the time we've done this battle report. He has like 1,500 points worth of Genestealer Cults now, and so now I'm really afraid to see what happens when we go up to the next bracket of point values as well. So, bad stuff. Anyways, all that aside, it was a great game, awesome time, had a fun time playing my opponent Warlord Ace. It was a good game, looking forward to rematch as always because, yeah, these guys are just that good. As always, you guys, please feel free to comment, to like, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is always invaluable as always. At the same time, check out Google Plus as well as Facebook and Instagram for all the latest and greatest on our hobby side of what we do here. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we alternate every other week between fantasy weeks as well as sci-fi week. This week will be a sci-fi battle reports for this week with 40K on Sunday as well as Necromunda on Thursday, and then of course we'll alternate to Age of Sigmar and Warhammer Fantasy Battle next week. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you guys stay classy. We'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace out.